Hi, Misha here, and we've been doing quite a few AK videos and shooting quite a few AKs recently, so I thought to change things up, I would bring a Colt or two out to the range for New Year's and let Fox give it a go. And he promptly did something that is rather difficult to do with a Colt, at least a known Colt that is tuned and working properly. He got it to jam. And I don't just mean a light jam, I mean get the rod out and hammer something out of the barrel jammed. So in this video, I'm going to explain what he did, what happened, how to fix it, and how to prevent it. Let's dig in. As we start this new year, if you could, definitely please do like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you'd really like to help us out, it's because we're trying to do a little more traveling, go to some events like Clash Bash, whatever, go over and check out the Patreon page. It might help out a bit. If you can't, we understand, but if you could, much obliged. Speaking of, when we were doing that live stream right after Christmas, the long 3-hour one, on there, Fox was talking about how he wanted to shoot more iron sight guns. And so that kind of got my wheels turning. I thought for the next range trip, which was coming up in just a few days at that time, what to do. Now, back in 2022, when we were recording for the GoldenEye video, which if you haven't checked out, go over and do. It was a lot of fun. We did an anniversary video. I brought this gun out to kind of celebrate the AR-33 in that game, and we shot it. AR-15A2. 3-round burst. Next, last year, at the cabin with J-Ro, I took out one of my favorites, a classic, and of course we shot it too. It's kind of my old reliable. And the SOCOM again. Most all guns in the last 20 years, certainly the last 15, are going to be pick rail. So iron sights are rather thin on the ground, especially outside of the retro community. I didn't want to push my luck with Fox. He's a millennial. He's still trying to get into it. But I thought this gun here would be kind of a good compromise. A classic, old, keep it simple, stupid gun, but still with nice, finely adjustable sights for the range, and a forward assist, which we shouldn't need, and we will, and a long enough barrel to make it worthwhile. It just seemed kind of like the right pick for our New Year's range trip. Colt 6320. It open. And as I almost always do with my guns, I put the first mag through it, just in case there was any issues that would happen to me, not my guest or friend or family, and it ran just fine. So I'm going to hand it over to Fox. Now, one thing people might think, I have the Swiss guns, a couple of HKs, I've got Colt ARs, obviously. So when it comes to guns, yeah, I like what I like. I'll just leave it at that. But when it comes to ammo, I am the opposite of bougie. In fact, a lot of what I shoot ends up being wolf, because when you're doing a lot of test firing, tinkering, the good brass stuff, it's just too expensive, especially in the current day and time. Also, hell if I can shoot for accuracy, so oh well. And I've had good luck with wolf out of Colts. Not a problem. Including last year when we were putting together an 11-inch commando for a friend. Wanted to test fire it, and so we were already out doing some property surveying, and yeah, took it with and ran some rounds through it. Colt 11-inch Commando first test fire. Held open.
So far, so good.
So that 11.5-inch Commando ran perfectly with Wolf that day. And that was just a Colt upper. Brand new upper, not broken in. And it was on a generic lower. I can't remember if it was a Bushmaster or a Palmetto or an Arrow, whatever, just a lower. It even had a standard buffer in it, standard spring, standard. And it ran Jim Dandy. So I wasn't worried about that. But we get to the range, and I realized something. While I've packed mostly Wolf with a bit of brass for other guns, Fox only has Tula? Okay. My experience with Tula has been mixed at best. And, well, it's what he's got. I am curious. So, with a bit of trepidation, but with the curiosity overriding it, I somewhat reluctantly let him shoot Tula through my Colt LE 6320 here. Yeah, maybe 6920 with Tula.
Tula. All right. See what happened there. Failure to load. Could be the mag too. I did max it out, so.
Yeah, make sure it's fully seated.
Yep. Let's try it again. Back at it. Same thing. Try again. All right. Old Tula ammo. Won't even feed it now.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Yep. Oh, we got actually one stuck in there. Stove pop. All right.
That's a hard no. Well, he has successfully disabled the gun. Okay. So, I'm going to have to work on that and investigate myself. Let's cut back to me at the range. Well, now Fox sees why I don't care for Tula. What happened? An empty got stuck in the extractor, grabbed it, but the rim ripped off the cheap Tula casing, and so it was just in there and it didn't have anything to grab onto. Luckily, it wasn't a live round, and tapping out with the cleaning rod, that was easy. So, came right out, wasn't really stuck in there, just, yeah. I would say when that happens, you saw them kind of continuing on, trying to make the Tula feed. If you start to have problems with ammo, stop. If the ammo is not really wanting to go, don't force it. Hence why the forward assist was always a controversial thing, especially if you were to ask Eugene Stoner. So now that it's, clear, I'm going to test it out again. We're not using high-grade ammo. This is just Wolf, but let's see how it does. So just to reiterate, the relatively small extractor on an AR was just kind of ripping the rim off the Tula casing. The metal was so brittle and thin and instead of flexing and pulling out, it was just ripping off. Now I'm sure another part of it was that steel case was also getting stuck in the chamber, producing extra friction, and more resistance than brass would. It was just a bad combination, and I'm not surprised. I've seen that exact same result, ripped rim and everything, in all kinds of guns. ACR comes to mind. It years ago jammed up an ACR bad. And I remember even a Scar L was foiled by Tula. And let's not even consider bullpups, especially the FS2000, mainly because unjamming that can be a beast. So, but that said, I wasn't sure. The guns we have here, because of what this is, I thought there might be a chance. This is my assembled Colt AR15 A2 M16 A2 upper on a semi-auto Colt A4 lower, and it's been a good runner for us. AR15 A2. Even though it is kind of a put-together gun, the rifle-length gas system and the 20-inch barrel, it has plenty of dwell time, and it's got, of course, a full-length buffer back here. And this is the old 80s version. Of course, it's more modern. M16 A4 AR15 A4 counterpart is also very forgiving on ammo. AR15 A4. So now I am curious if the A2 or A4 would have jammed on Tula, or maybe the longer barrel gas system would have given it enough to work. Moving on, of course, we have my M4A1 SOCOM, my LE6920 US property. This has a 14.5 inch barrel. Heavy, but it does come from the factory with an H2 buffer. And I've found that when I am trying to get shorter guns, carbines, because this is a carbine gas system, to run, switching out buffers really improves things. Also break-in of two, of course. But it's never been ammo sensitive, but you wouldn't expect it to be. Colt 6920 SOCOM. HK mag's reliable. Now, if you could hear in that clip, I'm not sure if you could, I was talking about the magazine. One reason I took this out to the range that day, I wanted to try out some of the new generation HK mags. You can have the best gun, most reliable, broken in, customized gun in the world, but if your mag sucks, yeah, it's not going to be a great day. So for the New Year's range trip last week, I made sure to bring out some trusted 20 round mags. Brought out 4 of them total. I think majority were Colt marked, if not US. These are all mags that I've tested. I know they work fine. I like 20s because they hold exactly 1 box of ammo, and it just looks right in the gun here. And I know Fox, he only has mag pulls. This would have just looked wrong. So I knew that the magazines would do. So I did control for that variable. And this is not a temperamental gun. We've shot it before. And with this 16-inch barrel, it actually has more dwell with this carbine gas system than this. So if anything, it should work better. Of course, it's more of a Car 15 slim handguard, late style, fiber light stock. I really do like this gun. It's light and handy. But yeah, the one variable I couldn't control for was the Tula. Well, I got it unjammed. Let me make sure he hasn't permanently damaged one of my finest 90s carbines. 6320. And she did hold open. So see, even with Wolf, it was fine. This is not super high-powered stuff, but it's enough. It eats steel okay, held open. There's just something about Tula that historically I've had issues with, and today now Fox has seen it. But I did bring this out for him to try, so I'll toss it over to him now. Kind of joking about damage. This is actually an ex-police gun, so I bought it used, actually for a really good price at CD&N years ago. But that's the benefit of Colts. These are especially 90s Colts, but this would be considered the heyday of Colt carbines. These were made back when they were definitely using military parts. So that's why I picked this gun. It's a known gun. Everything in it's solid. It's been shot enough to know it works, but not too much. Yeah, and it's just, it's all there. Wolf, it has no problem with. So I was curious if the Tula, but as we saw, it just won't. Wolf, while it's a little weak, maybe the metal, the rims are enough. Wolf works. Tula, no work. And this is what I've told Fox and other people for years. That's just where I draw the line personally. And it's really funny. You're going to see it here with Fox. He's now going to believe me about Tula. I've gone through this with so many people over the years. One friend years ago, I told him, don't worry about Tula, don't do that. He had 308 Tula, 7.62 NATO, maybe it was marked 308. He put it in one of the old Century marked L1A1 M-Bell guns, Thumbhole Stalkers. A good gun, a good FAL. It blew up on him. The Tula did. The gun was somewhat damaged, like the top cover, but believe it or not, it was salvageable. He believed me after that. Luckily, he was okay after minor recovery. Another time, I was loading up 9mm Tula into Sten mags, or Sterling, I can't remember which now, and I noticed that the bullets were uneven. Turns out the crimp was so loose that bullet setback was occurring. Luckily, I didn't shoot that, but it did terrify me. And it's no joke. I actually have a small scar on my hand from a bullet setback being wrong in a 9mm and kind of premature detonation. Long story, different day. But I've learned. And so I try to pass this on to other people, but sometimes the cheap cost and easy availability of Tula is too alluring. One thing's for sure, I'm not letting him put more Tula through this 6320, mostly because I don't want to waste 10 minutes at the range unjamming it. So I tossed him a box of Wolf because I brought it out, and he was curious about iron sights. This is, of course, the old field sights. That's kind of what makes the 6320 different from the 6520, but perfect for a little carbine. This is kind of my quasi Blackhawk down carbine, like a Colt 723 or so, something like that. So let's finally let him shoot this and then get his initial impressions. All right, after all that fun time, we'll see how the 6320 works with Fox now. So, 30-second hot take. What do you think?
Man, this was quite different for an AR15 platform and myself. Extremely lightweight. Did have a little bit of recoil coming back and forth on it, but overall, man, it's pretty cool. Different, familiar, but yeah. To someone that doesn't know what they're holding, this would just look like the most basic AR15 you could get. But
it is basic.
Yeah,
it's based. Well, there you have it. I'm actually really happy it was different to him. That was kind of the goal. I love my M4A1, but it's quite a bit heavier, more of a modern take. This is the AR15 carbines I grew up with. They are so light and trim. They can get around 6 pounds, especially if you go to the shorter barrels, pencil barrels. This is a 1 in 7 though, which is nice. The older ones were 1 in 12. I've done full deep dive videos on all these, so that's not really the point of this. Unfortunately, because we were messing around with it, and because he didn't have ammo of his own, and we needed to run a lot of rounds to that SAM-5, the Arsenal, that's all we were able to do that day. I'll have to bring this back out again, because I do believe he wants to tinker with iron sights. I think next time I'll ask him, does he like the A1 field sight, or does he prefer the more finely adjustable A2 sight? I think I've got an A2 carbine out there. I'm not sure. I know I've got a carry handle gun at the very least. So that was that. So there you go. That's how you can make a Colt, even with everything else. Jam, bad ammo. I've also noticed that Tula 62 grain seems to be even more problematic than Tula 55 grain, but take that with a grain of salt, because with Tula, years ago, I actually had a recall. To be fair to Tula Ammo USA. They called me. They were polite. They had a batch of bad ammo that got out. They made aware. They sent me a return label. They replaced it. By that point, I had maybe 3/4 of the case, because what'll happen with Tula, it actually works well in a case because of the style of bolt and the big extractor. In fact, here's a quick look back at the Arsenal Sam 5 chugging Tula just fine. All right, Sam 5 with the Tula. So yeah, it's not that Tula won't run in anything, but you have to be real careful. I wouldn't go with smaller extractor guns really meant for brass case, guns with the rotating multi-lug bolt. I would stick to Kalashnikov guns meant for steel, and it'll be okay. Maybe not great though. Then what you run into, and we did this years ago with the Beryl Archer, the groups on Tula are horrendous, and this is me saying it. You're talking 4, even 4.5 MOA. And it almost seems like they put the same powder behind the 62 grain as they do the 55. So again, we've noticed that accuracy is even worse with the 62. But again, anecdotal, each batch can be different. Oh well. So we've talked about all this. What are some steps to prevent if you're having AR troubles and troubleshooting and all that? And then we'll wrap this up. First, just understand, the longer the gas system, the more forgiving it's going to be. Rifle length, intermediate, carbine. Barrel is similar. You want this dwell time as much as possible. And that's why with that 11-inch gun, I was really wanting to test fire it before I handed it off. Now the 16 here does have more dwell because of the extended barrel, but it doesn't always matter. And if you are having difficulties, check your buffer. Most of your commercial guns have a standard buffer. Now on a rifle, you have a rifle length buffer. Rarely ever where you need to mess with that. Buffers are really only a carbine thing for the most part. I'm speaking very generally. Now your newer Colts like this, especially with the heavy barrel, will come with the H2 buffer. Older Colts, like the LE6920, usually have an H buffer. But again, if you get a lot of commercial guns, they will have an unmarked buffer, which typically means standard weight. So if you're having trouble, yeah, change the buffer. Maybe also change the spring, although I've not really found that very effective most of the time. One thing that could help just a tiny bit is going to a full uncut bolt carrier. You know, what they call M16 spec versus AR15 spec. And certainly bolt heads or bolts themselves, because your ejector, your extractors in there, everything, changing those out, or at least the springs in them, can really matter, especially with shorty guns. That's why the Mark 18 has its own special springs and stuff, because the shorter you go on the barrel, the more finicky things are going to get. Internal piston, direct gas impingement, whatever you like to call it, there you go. Another thing to kind of think of is it the shooter? Sometimes the way certain people hold the gun, mess with the gun, manipulate a gun can affect it positively or negatively. That's why even after the 11-inch worked for me when we were testing it last summer, I handed it off to J-Ro real quick just to make sure it worked in his hands. Now J-Ro with the Colt.
Nice.
So yeah, with two of us shooting it, that's when I felt confident to hand it off to a good friend and customer last year. And he's had it since and likes it. So that's kind of my troubleshooting process. And again, since I do a lot of test firing with guns before I send them to customers, Wolf is the way I really have to go. I could not afford actual like military ammo, brass. I'd love to, don't get me wrong, but we're not sponsored here. Every bit of ammo we shoot, I bought, I pay for. If someone wants to sponsor me, let me know. So that's kind of where I come from. on that. Another thing too, when parts are brand new, there may be a minor break-in period. With ARs, I haven't really seen this too much, but I have noticed that sometimes the gas tube can get a little constricted, and so a good cleaning out of it can sometimes help. That helped years ago with the Mark 18 Mod O I was building. It was a Jam-O-Matic on the first range trip. I cleaned out the tube really well, took it out the next time, and it ran. So sometimes you just need to put a few rounds through it. Again, other guns seem to kind of lean into that more than the AR, because the AR is a pretty precision fit gun, especially Colts, FNs. Not trying to be a snob here, that's just the reality. Whereas some of your cheaper ones might be a little rougher on the anodizing, and that's really what break-in is. It's wearing the finish in, things like that, maybe deburring a little bit. And as I said earlier, magazines, very important, very, very important. And you noticed when Fox was shooting it, I mentioned to make sure the magazine is fully inserted, because when you have a mag completely tipped off, 20 rounds, in this case 30 in others, sometimes you'll think it's latched in, and it's just not quite. That's one of the benefits of the kind of AK rock and lock system. It's a little easier to know if you're completely snapped in. With these direct mag wells, drop-free mag wells and buttons, sometimes it can just be held in by a little bit of friction and not quite all the way. Again, I'm just talking various ways you can try to troubleshoot. But of course, the best way is ammo. The better the ammo, the better the gun will run. And the better the ammo, the better groupings you will have. And some guns, just like certain ammo types, better. Yeah, I'm sure you know 55 grain tends to work better, 1 in 12, maybe 1 in 9, and 62 grain likes 1 in 7 or 1 in 8 more. That's a good rule of thumb, but some individual guns just tend to be finickier, or just like certain ammos more. It's almost kind of a little bit of magic. But if you're serious about grouping, take out 4 or 5 types of ammo, just a box each, see how they do. Also, always remember to take out spare mags. That's why I really like mag pouches. I tend to load them up once I know the mags in them are good, and I like that. It just lets me know, because even if you think you've got good mags, sometimes things happen. And at the end of the day, a quality gun, a Colt, an FN, a SIG, whatever, they should last a very long time if you take care of them. Oh, and one other thing that came out, I realized, much to my horror, Fox has been using the steel cleaning rods from AKs to clean his guns. Guys, those rods are for emergency use. They're not meant for real use. Ever wonder why a lot of old guns have counterbores? It's because steel cleaning rods will kind of rub away the rifling at your muzzle. Yeah, there's debates over what's the best alternative, brass or carbon fiber or whatever else, bore snakes. That's at the topic for another day. But I will say the steel rods, like is in the buttstock of this A2, they are for emergencies, like unjamming Tula from your gun when your cousin does it for you. But I think this video illustrates that with the best guns, even good mags, poor ammo can really stall out your day. And, well, that's just what happens. Even Colts, as good as they are, can and will jam if things aren't gelling right. At the end of the day, though, don't stress. There's almost always a fix, especially for AR-15s. Parts are everywhere for these. So don't worry. It'll get worked out. So, what do you think? What are your experiences? Let's discuss in the comments really nice, really good, dependable, well-liked guns we've all had that we've caused to jam, because I think we've all been there. We've all done it and been like, what the crap? That never does it. Sometimes it's because the gun got too dirty. Some guns don't like the cold or the heat, or again, maybe it's a bad mag and you just didn't know it. It came into your rotation, or maybe the mag just recently broke. But that said, I think the AR is very reliable these days, especially if you get a quality one. Now, sometimes your kit builds and everything slapped together, sometimes they work, like this one. And sometimes they need a little TLC, but even they can usually be made to work. But yeah, just wanted to do an AR video, had the footage, thought it might be a teaching moment, and I was curious too. Would the 6320 overcome Tula ammo? No. No, it could not. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Hope everyone's having a good day. If you could, please do like, share, and subscribe, like I said. And as I said at the beginning, if you'd like to help support the channel, bucking up a month over on Patreon really goes a long way. And with Fox's help, I should be able to do Q&As, maybe even live streams more frequently. So could be something fun and new for 2023. This is Misha, also on behalf of Fox and Jabro. We'll all catch you very soon next time.